This morning we've got the Lincoln back outside. We did blast this last week. We blasted this and got it, found more things on the bottom that we had to fix. So we've gone through, we've fixed our areas where there was holes and rust. We did end up putting a whole trunk floor in it from that top section back. That was just better to just replace that whole thing. So we did that. There was some rust in the wheel wells and things that we had to fix, some patches that we had to do in there, like that one right there. Some holes here and there that we had to weld up, patches we had to make. We did have to end up replacing a section of this frame rail. This was all rotted off where the transmission mounts are. We replaced that. There was numerous little areas that we had to do quite a bit of work on. We ground down a lot of the nasty looking factory welds and things like that. So today we're gonna give it a final blast, a final cleaning, and then it will go in the booth and get epoxied. And here she is in the booth. We spent many hours yesterday blowing all the sand out, doing sticking vacuums down in all the pockets, sucking the sand out, blowing the sand out, and now we're here. So car's blasted and we are getting ready to put epoxy on this. So we're gonna use DP90 LV and we're gonna get this all locked down so that tomorrow this will actually go back on the hoist, come back off the rotisserie. We will put the rear end back in, the front suspension back on, we'll get it back on its wheels, and then we are going to start bodywork. And that will be a whole nother long process, especially being how long and straight this car is. It's going to be black, so it's gotta be real nice. So now that we've got everything sealed up in epoxy, we did not do the skins. So now what we're gonna do is get this out of here and we're gonna DA all the skins back down with 80, clean them up really, really well, clean it off. We're gonna get it right back in here and we're gonna put F4921 on the outside, a different sort of a black epoxy. We like to use that on the skins. It's a little thinner, and then we end up putting the VP 2050 over that. But for the bottom and the sandblasted profile, I like the DPLV because it's a little bit thicker and it's still a great primer. 4921 is slightly better. DPLV is still a great primer. All right, so this morning we got DPLV on the inside, the bottom, everything but the skins. And after we did that, we went ahead, re-prepped our skins, did all the metal prep, and now we are going to put F4921 down on the skins. And I'm really not concerned with trying to mask any of this DPLV off because my overspray for my 4921, which is also a black epoxy, this DPLV is only maybe 8 hours old. And it's still in its recoat window, so any of the overspray is going to melt in, it's going to stick really good. So here we go, 4921 quarters, rockers, fenders, and top around the hood, the top of the fenders, front filler panel. And there we go. So now this entire car has been sealed in epoxy, DP90 and 4921. So tomorrow we'll come in, we'll scuff this 4921, and we're gonna put 2050 over top of this on the exterior panels, and then this will go on the hoist and go back on its wheels, start getting some body work done. So now we have the car back in the booth. We have scuffed it down after we put our 4921 on there. Came in this morning, scuffed this with a red Scotch-Brite, just a light scuff, just to kind of open it back up. We are in our recoat window. Even though this is dry to the touch, we're in our recoat window with the 4921, meaning technically we didn't even have to scuff it. We could have put anything over it and the solvent would have bit in, it would have adhered, but I just like to always at least lightly scuff this before we go to 2050. And I've got it masked, basically just to try to avoid any direct overspray of the 2050 into the engine bay, the wheel wells, the jams, things like that. And again, I don't necessarily have to do that. This is all gonna get sanded before we paint, obviously, the engine bay, the inside, the bottom, and the trunk. We're gonna sand all that before it gets top coated for the last time. So the little bit of overspray we're gonna have on that type of stuff is gonna be very fine, and we're gonna sand it off, no big deal. But just certain areas that I don't want 2050 pounded on, like in the jams and things. So I like to just mask it off like this, just a real quick barrier around what we're actually going to be spraying very close to, just to keep some direct overspray off. All right, so here we go with the 2050. I'm going to spray this out of a SATA 100B with a 1.7. We're going to do 2 coats. We're going to give it about 25-minute flash in between. Here we go. So we've got our 2050 down. This has been down for a few hours now. It's dry to the touch, and I've gone ahead and unmasked it, but now you can see how the jams are very still nice and black, and there's really no overspray in the engine bay, things like that. Really the only part of the car that is gray is the outer skins, and that's basically what we're after. So from here, next week, this will go back on its wheels, come off the rotisserie, we'll put the suspension back under it, get it rolling again, put the trunk lid, the doors, the hood on, and this will go into bodywork.